this Friday. Game 6 preview edition of Pucks Across Borders on Sports Addict Live on X and YouTube, brought to you by the one, the only First Round Collectibles. Right now with our promo code Sports Addict, get 10% off whatever sports card you want in the entire First Round Collectibles store. They have an ongoing sale up to 50% off, tons and tons of cards. And with our promo code Sports Addict, not only do you get 10% off of regular priced items, but sales items as well. Do the math. 20 becomes 30, 30, 40, 40, 50, 50, 60. You get the picture. Head over to firstroundcollectibles.com today. Use promo code Sports Addict for 10% off regular priced and sales priced items. Hockey, football, basketball, baseball, wrestling, boxing. You want it, they got it. Go to firstroundcollectibles.com today. Tell them we sent you with our promo code Sports Addict for 10% off every card in the First Round Collectibles store. That's the number one, STRoundCollectibles.com. First Round Collectibles, sports cards for sports fans.
Yeah. Let's go. We just gotta go hard. I go the hardest. I bring the pain. Not what you used to. It's all part of the game. Yeah, I just gotta go hard. I just gotta go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Yeah. Oh yeah, the beast back. Adrenaline pumping through my veins, can't relax. Original, I am not the same as these cats.
And welcome to Pucks Across Borders on a Friday morning. A little overcast. It's only 31 degrees Celsius today, rather than the 42 that we've had all week. Don't know what that is in Fahrenheit and don't care. But welcome to Pucks Across Borders. Like I said, Friday morning, game 6 tonight. We thought we were done a week ago. We thought it was over literally a week ago, right? Because game 4 was Saturday night. And this time last week, Friday, we thought that this was our last game preview show. But we're here a week later. And will there be one more? We will find that out tonight. Our boy Andre is back, having some Wi-Fi difficulty. He will be back shortly, hopefully. But John, let's get this party started. You read his work about the NFL on Gridiron Heroics. John, how you doing on a Friday, man?
I feel like we're working overtime with how much we expected the series to be over by now last week at this time. So we're still going, and we're officially heading into the summer season with hockey still being played. So I think this I think if Edmonton does win tonight, I'll just say this will end up being a memorable series no matter which way it goes.
Yes, I have a thought on that, but before I touch on that, you read, it feels like a wrestling intro here. You read his work on Give Me Sport. You read his gambling picks on Winners and Whiners, hailing all the way from wherever he is right now. Andre, how you doing on a Friday, bro? How you doing, bro? It's good to see you. Oh, maybe there's some issues.
Can't compete with that, so you're gonna have to give me a moment.
Oh, got you.
I'm doing great. It's good to be back on the show with you guys. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. We got you.
Yeah. I was competing with a couple voices, not the ones in my head. But does this qualify as free hockey, bonus hockey, if you will?
Overtime.
I don't know. Last time I was here, I was ready for the series to be over. Now, I'm ready for Game 7. So,
yeah, I mean, this series is a best out of 7, but like we've all said, it just felt like this series was on its way to being over. To your point, John, that's a really interesting thought because, this has been a very memorable series already, right? But if Florida wins, does any of it matter? Like, if the Panthers win tonight, if they win Game 7, then I do think that the whole context of the series comes into play. But if they win in Game 6, does any of this matter? What we're seeing from Connor McDavid, if Connor McDavid gets tonight and Monday, regardless of if they win or lose, he will most likely break the all-time point record for a postseason. I believe he's 5 points back of Wayne Gretzky right now. And so he might break it tonight. Who knows? He's had 4 points in the last 3 games or whatever per game. But yeah, what we're seeing from Connor McDavid, and don't get me wrong, it's not a knock on the rest of the Oilers team because I feel like the depth for the Oilers has never looked better in this playoffs than they do right now, not just defensively, but contributing offensively. Stuart Skinner, and I think this is kind of being lost a little bit. I think Skinner's been playing very, very well the last few games. I thought even in the 8-1 blowout, I thought that he played great. And so, yeah, if they lose tonight, maybe it all gets forgotten, but we're all hoping for a Game 7. All right, before we get into tonight's game, and I want Andre's thoughts on the last game heading into tonight as well. But first, let's do a little NHL news, talk about it a little bit. I will just say this on the record, no disrespect. If this was the middle of July, maybe I would spend more time on it. PLD goes to Washington for Darcy Kemper. Don't care. I don't like this guy. How there were rumors of the Kings buying him out. And they were like, no, we're not going to buy him out. We believe in this player. We believe in him. Well, out of nowhere on a random Thursday in June, boom, he's traded. Darcy Kemper, he's a good goalie. Definitely some questions about health. I don't know. The Kings re-signed Big Save Dave. So is Darcy Kemper a step up on Cam Talbot? I guess so. I think it's kind of the same. I don't know. To me, you have some upside, have some downside. I don't really know how much difference that is. PLD going to Washington. I feel like, again, no disrespect to Washington. I feel like it's just kind of you're sending him out to no man's land to kind of just evaporate into thin air. Washington, it would be hard pressed for them to have a better season than they had last year. And PLD, I don't know what it means for Washington. I've already talked about this more than I wanted to, but the trade that we all really want to talk about, especially our boy to the right of me at the top of the screen, Jacob Markstrom, goes to the New Jersey Devils, John. The Devils are paying only 59% of the deal, of the contract. The Calgary Flames get Kevin Ball and a 2025 first-round pick, which is top 10 protected. We're all very aware of the biggest problem that the Devils had last year. Not the only problem, but the biggest one. Now you have one of the best tandems in the National Hockey League. If Allmark does get traded from Boston, which still remains unknown, who knows? Everyone thinks that they should trade him, but if you're Boston, why? Trade him just to trade him? Why? You literally have 2 number 1 goaltenders every single night. You have an all-star playing for you. Why would you make that move? So that remains to be seen. But John, you got Jake Allen, who is a good goalie. No one would want him to be playing 60 plus games a year, but he's a good goalie. Now you have Jacob Markstrom. How do you feel about the trade, and how does it make you feel about the team? Although it's pretty early, how does it make you feel about your team heading into next season already?
I'm glad you touched on Allen because it looked like he was going to be playing 60 games next year if this trade didn't happen. So I'm kind of glad that's out of the picture now, unless something drastic happens to Markstrom. I feel pretty good about the trade. I think it was a fair compensation for the Devils. I like the fact they're only paying about $4 million a year for a goalie. I look at this as very much a Band-Aid fix because Markstrom's on a 2-year contract and he's on the older side. I think he's 34, 35 years old. So definitely not someone the Devils expect to be their goalie for the next decade or anything, but a lot of Devils fans have the sentiment that this move means they're all in for next year, and I can kind of understand that because they have their core protected for a while now with Hughes, Bratt, Hischier, except Dougie Hamilton, etc. So I think the Devils now bought themselves a 2-year window where they can really compete. I mean, I'm hoping they're better than next year. I don't want to go too far into that yet. I'm just going to say I think the move makes them better. And to your point about Ullmark in Boston, a lot of Devils fans were talking about the possibility of them trading for him. My guess is that Boston probably wanted too much, and I don't blame them.
Yeah.
Because I think Boston's in a position where they have leverage and they can ask for a lot because, they probably view themselves as a team that can compete for the Stanley Cup. So why give anything up easily? Whereas Calgary, I think, has a bit more work in front of them. So they're probably on the rebuilding side of things at this point.
Yeah.
So I think it was easier to get Markstrom cheaper, probably. And I think the Devils got a fair trade. Ball was expendable, in my opinion. And the pick they gave up is top 10 protected. So if this blows up, the Devils can just go back in and draft next year. So I'd say this is a good thing for the Devils, and they did a good job here.
Yeah, I'd be interested. To be completely frank, I haven't done my due diligence on this. I haven't deep dived into this. I would be interested to see from the Calgary fan base perspective. I would love to listen to Calgary radio for the day and see what they're thinking. Well, because they traded Markstrom now. They traded Tanev. They traded, there's another player that I'm just completely, Lindholm. And I'd be curious to see the totality of what they got in return and if they feel they got enough. A 2025 first round draft pick, top 10 protected from the Devils, in my opinion, is robbery. Because if it's top 10 protected, then clearly you don't get that pick. And the Devils are going to the playoffs next year. I'll just make that statement right now. I know, John, that probably makes you a little uncomfortable calling that a shot right now.
Can only hope.
Dude, the Devils are a good team, man. If they had a goalie, worst case scenario, they were the Washington Capitals going into the playoffs this year. Worst case, if they had a goalie, they're at least playing the Rangers in the first round, right? Now, I still don't think that really would have mattered this year. I think the Rangers were a juggernaut. But if the Devils had a goalie, bro, they're going to the playoffs this past year. They're squeaking in, not a formidable team just because of the injuries and everything. But listen, Dougie Hamilton, despite being older, he's still a top tier defenseman in this league. You have Jack Hughes healthy next year, Bratt, Hischier. You got some really, really good pieces. Plus, Sheldon Keefe, he's a very good coach. And so now you have, I don't know. I think the Devils, are they cup contenders? I think that's probably going too far. My point is, what's that first round pick going to be? In the 20s? Maybe high teens. I think the Flames got kind of fleeced on this deal, and I'd be curious to see the totality of everything that they've gotten for their key players, and if it really, I don't know. It's really interesting to see, but we got plenty of time to talk about that. Let's move on. Before we get into Game 6 tonight, Andre, it's been a minute. You're on vacation. You're living the high life. There's some crazy fancy lights back there. So clearly you're spending a lot of money. Very rich guy, clearly. What did you see out of that Game 5, man? How are you feeling about this series heading into Game 6 tonight before we break it all down?
Yeah, with some assistance from Bruno Mars, the Game 5 was a McDavid masterclass all the way. I mean, there's no other way to put it. That was just, every time I saw the screen, it was just him doing things that really no other player in the league can do right now. What do you have, 2-3 power play points? And it seems like he created at least 2 of those off the top of my head were pretty much single-handedly created the goal that Edmonton got from it. So, I mean, there's a reason he was the consummate favorite entering this series, even though most people expected the Panthers to win. It's because if this gets to a Game 7, it's almost entirely on the back of his talents at this point.
Yep.
And an all-time great postseason performance. We're witnessing an all-time great player at arguably his peak right now, and it's special. So that was mostly my takeaway from Game 5. I will say that Edmonton as a team, and you kind of touched on it earlier, they've tightened up top to bottom. They're playing just much better, especially defensively. Obviously, they gave up, 3 goals in Game 5. They let the Panthers tighten it up, but when Florida gets desperate, that's what they do. It was never going to be a walk in the park 2 nights in a row or 2 games in a row. So even if Edmonton plays the way they have been, they should be fine.
Yeah, you wrapped up right on time there. That is professional. That's professional podcasting if I've ever seen it. No, dude, I think you're absolutely right. And I mean, let's be clear about this, okay? We've seen great players in the finals before. We've seen recently, right? We've seen McKinnon bring his team the championship. Those Florida Panthers teams, we've seen good performances over the last 5, 10, 15 years. However, hockey is not the same as, is not the same as the other sports where it's hard for one player to just take over a game. Yes, one player can be very impactful, but to see one player just completely dominate is not the way the game's played these days. And it's incredible to watch what we're seeing right now. And the stats, like most of the people talking about this right now, including myself, either never saw Gretzky or Lemieux play, or they watched the end of the career. Like I'm in my mid 30s. Like the Gretzky that I remember is from the Kings and from the Rangers and from the Blues. Randomly, we forget that Gretzky played for the Blues for a time. And like Messier too. Like, don't get me wrong, 95 was incredible, or 94, 95 was incredible. But most of us who are talking about this right now didn't watch Gretzky in the 80s or whatever, but you watch like the highlights, like that play, I'll go back to it. I can't remember who scored on it, but that play by McDavid, literally just going through everybody down the middle of the ice, passing it over for the 2-on-1 goal. Like that's Wayne Gretzky. That's a Wayne Gretzky play all day long. And the fact that I believe off the top of my head, I should be more prepared than this, but I believe the record for points in the playoffs is 47, set by Wayne Gretzky. And McDavid's at 42 right now, which is crazy. McDavid, his assists alone, he has more assists than anybody else on either team has points. It's crazy right now what he's doing, and it's remarkable to watch. All right, let's dive right into it. John, we'll start with you, bro. Tonight, game 6. Oh my goodness. These 2-day breaks are just absolutely insane. It feels like game 5 was a week ago. And it kind of was. Florida Panthers in Edmonton, the heart of the beast. What is it? The heart of the beast, the belly of the beast. That's the one. The belly of the beast. Plus 100 on the road. Minus 120 are the Oilers at home. The over is 5.5 at minus 112. The under is minus 108. Plus 1.5 for the Panthers, minus 265. Minus 1.5 for the Oilers, plus 215. John, we'll start with you. What do you see in this game tonight? Game 6, Oilers, Panthers. Are we hanging out on Monday morning? Are we hanging out?
So for those of you that missed our show on Wednesday, I'll set the scene up with this. I mentioned on that show as well that only 3 teams have even made it to Game 6 in the Stanley Cup Final ever after being down 3-0 in the series. One of them, as we know, are Mark's Toronto Maple Leafs, who came back to win the Cup. The second was the team that blew the 3-0 lead in 1942. In 1945, they were behind 3-0 and couldn't win Game 7 against the Toronto Maple Leafs. So the Maple Leafs got the wins twice.
Oh, those were the good old days. The glory days. I remember them fondly. Oh, yeah. That was a time to be alive.
And then 2012, my New Jersey Devils couldn't do it in Game 6 and got the doors blown off against the Kings. So 3 completely different results in this scenario historically. I don't think Edmonton quite fits the mold for any of them, if I'm being honest, because what I think happens tonight is Florida wins a close game. I think this is the night Florida wins the Cup.
Oh.
I'll tell you why. Edmonton, as I've said before in this show, is a very streaky team. And when they're hot, they're hot. The thing is, and Mark, you pointed this out at the end of Game 3. Edmonton was starting to get hot. They were just too far behind to really take advantage of it near the end, mainly because of 6 blown minutes. Well, they carried that momentum into that monstrous 8-1 win in Game 4. And Game 5, I think they were on the opposite end of Florida, where they were hot for just long enough to hang on. But I swear, I think the second half of the game, Florida outplayed them. And I think Florida finally started to figure things out where they had been off. Florida had been off for 2 games straight at that point. Because Edmonton was on a streak for those 2 from the middle of Game 3 to the middle of Game 5, where they were outscoring Florida, I believe, about 13-1, which is ridiculous. And I think Florida was finally able to get some stuff together in the middle of the second game once they fell down 3-0 in Game 5. And maybe they were just playing looser because of how far behind they were, but it felt like something finally clicked that had been missing from the previous games. And I got to admit, Bobrovsky has not been himself lately, too. I don't know how much longer that will continue either.
Yeah.
I'm skeptical of Bobrovsky being as poor as he has been. But offensively, I think Florida's fine. I mentioned on the reaction show Wednesday that Reinhart and Verhaeghe have been very quiet the last couple of games. I don't expect that to continue either. I think at least one of them's getting on the board tonight. I think they're actually the 2 top goal scorer props on the Florida side of things, at least. So I think Vegas believes they're getting back on the board tonight. And I do too. I think at least one of them is scoring a goal. McDavid, I think that's the one reason I'm a little skeptical to boldly say Florida wins, because McDavid could just be so good he carries them. And Edmonton is getting the def performance. I feel like this is a gut prediction hot take. I feel like this is the night the def lets them down. I don't know how much longer I question how much longer the def can do what they're doing with the Oilers from the lower lines. When is Florida going to shut it down? I don't know. I think I've seen Edmonton be streaky throughout this entire playoff run of theirs. I feel like the momentum started to go the wrong way, but they had such a big lead in game 5 that they held on. So my prediction is Florida kind of picks up where they left off in game 6 and wins the cup here. It might be similar to what happened to the Rangers against Carolina, where they finally get it together and say, okay, we're really close to blowing this badly. We need to wrap this up. So I think that's my prediction. Florida wins the cup tonight.
Oh man, the stench of negativity coming from this show now just completely took the air out of the balloon. I'll tell you what, bro. They're down 3-2 against Vancouver. They go out and they win 3 in a row, going up 1-0 in their series against Dallas. Then they go down 2-1 in the series, lose 2 in a row. Then they rail off 3 straight to win that series in 6. Then they go down 3-0 in the Stanley Cup Finals. They've won 2 in a row. Can they do another 3-game winning streak in the playoffs? When they went and won 16 or whatever it was in a row, 16, 17, that was on the heels of a 3-game losing streak. And they went out and they won like 16 or 17 in a row. I'm just saying, you can convince me into what you're talking about, especially for game 7, but I feel like the Oilers got one last kind of kick at the can. I'll dive into that in a minute. Andre, what about you, bro? What do you see in this game tonight? Who am I to go first when you have it? Sorry, bro. Go ahead.
You're the host with the most. That's who you are. But yeah, I don't know if I'm lagging or not, but I don't think Edmonton got it back home in front of that fan base to just let it slip there. Like, they're not going to let those fans down. Getting it back to game 6, the building's going to be insane. So much energy. And John, I mean, one of your points that you brought up is why I like the over more than anything in this game. The Panthers are going to play better. Point blank period. I think Verhaeghe, Reinhart, like their top guys especially, like they need to step back up, score again. I think Kachuk's been playing pretty well, but for the most part, they're not really getting scored for those top guys. But Connor McDavid's on the other side. And it's just the way he's been skating, the way he's been playmaking, it really just seems like he refuses to let this team die. And the last one's the hardest one. So, okay, you can give Reinhart a goal, you can give Verhaeghe a goal, you can give Barkov a goal. Give him 3. I could see McDavid getting 3 assists, like 3 primaries. He sets a play up entirely by himself to just keep the Oilers alive. So I think regardless of who comes out on top, it's going to be a wild one. I'm expecting a high-scoring game. So I'm definitely taking that over. But my money, personally, partly because I want it, partly because I don't think you can really bet against the best player when they're in the best mode. I would take the Oilers in this one. I would definitely take McDavid over 1.5 points, multiple assists. I wouldn't be surprised if he scored a goal too. It's the McDavid show right now, and I think it's going to stay that way until he shows us, or he gives us a reason not to think it will be.
To your point, McDavid over 1.5 points is minus 140. So the books are like, you're going to have to rob us in some other fashion because we're not giving you an inch on this one. So a couple things. I'm interested from a Florida perspective. I'm really interested. And John, you kind of touched on this. Andre, you as well. I thought Kachuk was by far the best player on the ice the other night for the Panthers. I thought he played a terrific game. He's been pretty quiet, not only in the Stanley Cup Finals, but throughout the postseason. He hasn't been the Kachuk, especially the Kachuk that we saw heading into the Stanley Cup Finals last year. I thought he played out of his mind the other night. That diving goal line save just kind of shows you his mentality. He's always fighting for every inch. I thought he played really well. Verhaeghe's had some really good looks. He just hasn't been able to get one in. I think, especially the last 3 games, Barkov and Reinhart have been almost invisible. Like, I mean, Barkov's had some okay plays, like 200 feet, some good defensive plays. But for the most part, those 2 players have kind of not really been relevant for the last couple games. So I'm really interested to see how that looks moving forward. For the Oilers, I'm right there with you, Andre. I just, there is a part of me that does kind of lean the way John's thinking. Just like, okay, this Florida Panthers team, Stanley Cup contenders, we've been calling this team to be in this position all year long. But so to me, it's like, okay, they've lost 2 in a row. Can the Panthers, it's not just about can the Oilers win 3 in a row. It's, can the Panthers lose 3 in a row? It doesn't really feel like they can. I just think, and we talk about momentum. I heard Brian Burke on NHL Network Radio this morning talking about it. He doesn't believe in momentum in the playoffs. And I do agree in a sense, especially when we have these like long, like, 3-day breaks, 2-day breaks, right? So I can understand that. McDavid's just on another planet right now. They're at home. The Oilers just need to be cool. Like, just be cool. It's going to be so hype in there. The whole city is going nuts. The whole country is going nuts. Everybody's supporting you right now. Like you said, that building is going to be absolutely insane. Just play your game. Don't get too crazy. Don't get too excited. Those nerves are going to be high. I'm really, really interested to see how that whole thing plays out. Like, can the Oilers just buckle down and play a hockey game and not get caught up in the wave of all that emotion? I think that the Oilers find a way to win tonight. I do. I think Connor McDavid, the over 1.5 points. The interesting thing is that shot prop the other night failed because he didn't really need to shoot the puck that much. Like, everybody else was kind of contributing. I think that he's going to be more trigger happy tonight. I'm just going to continue to hammer this. Sometimes it wins, sometimes it loses. That's gambling. Over 3.5 shots for McDavid is minus 115. If you're giving me that kind of a price, I'll take that all day long. I do think Reinhart, does he score? I don't know. Over 2.5 shots for Reinhart is minus 140. If you go the alternative, where is it here? Alternative 4+ shots for Reinhart is plus 180. And I kind of like him inserting himself back into this series. Where was it? I just had it here. The one thing that I am, because let's just be real. I know that the pressure technically is on the Oilers because if they lose, then they lose the series, right? So it feels like, but I think the pressure is kind of all swung on the Panthers. Because if you go back to Florida, now there's 1 game left. There's no more wiggle room. It's all gone. I think that they're going to be firing pucks at the net. Over 6.5 shots, over 26.5. I really butchered that. Over 26.5 saves by Stuart Skinner is minus 110. I can see the Panthers putting up 28, 29, 30 shots on goal. You might miss this by like a shot, but I actually really like Stuart Skinner over 26.5. And I'm with you, Andre, as well on that over. I love that over. The over's hit in the last 3 games, and it's hit pretty comfortably. The over was 5.5, I believe, in all these last 3 games. 4-3. 8-1, 5-3. That's pretty comfortably over. And so if you're giving me 5.5, I'll take that as well. Sorry, just pulling up these. So over 5.5 -112. Oilers to win -120. And I'll take that McDavid shot prop and a Reinhart shot prop as well. As far as goal scoring goes, I'm just going to leave it alone. Let's just watch and enjoy. I don't need too much exposure on this game tonight. All right, let's move on. Wrapping it up as always with our best bets, brought to you by the one, the only First Round Collectibles. Right now with our promo code Sports Addict, get 10% off whatever sports card you want in the entire First Round Collectibles store. They have an ongoing sale up to 50% off tons of cards. And with our promo code Sports Addict, not only do you get 10% off of regular price items, but sales items as well. That's the number one, STRoundCollectibles.com. Use promo code Sports Addict for 10% off every card in the First Round Collectibles store. First Round Collectibles, sports cards for sports fans. John, what do you got? Best bet Friday night, Game 6.
I think Reinhart gets back on the board tonight, win or lose. So give me him to score a goal, plus 170. So not bad odds there. That's my best bet.
Absolutely love it. Andre, what do you got tonight, bro?
For the first time in a long time in these playoffs, me and John aren't going to be clashing on the best bet because I'm taking the over.
Yeah, you guys really have been. There's been a lot of
there's contradictory bets there.
Yeah, I love it. All right, I'm oh boy, do I dare? You know what? I don't dare. I'm going to go back to the well. Let me see. I'm going to go back to the well, and I'm just going to keep laying this down. Connor McDavid over 3.5 shots. I want to take the Edmonton money line so badly, but listen, we're in a Game 6 of the final. Anything can happen. I'm going to stay away from the side as far as best bets go. But Connor McDavid over 3.5 shots, -115. He only... I completely... Andre, I need you over here, man. I'm not good at this DraftKings thing, bro. I have to go to same game parlay first, and then it's just so confusing. He didn't have to shoot a lot the other night because the depth came to play. I just think he's going to have to continue to do his thing. He's covered in 3 of the 5 games, I believe. He's shot over 3.5 shots. Who'd you say, John? Reinhart, right?
Yeah.
Reinhart plus 170, over 5.5 at -112. And Connor McDavid over 3.5 shots at -115. Together, that is plus 600. So some minus money adding up. That's okay. Plus 600. Give you lots of spending money for Monday night, Game 7. That's all we really want, right, guys? Like, I don't really care who wins. I don't think you guys really care who wins. But a Game 7, we went over this last time, Andre, on Wednesday. There's only been 2 Game 7s in the last 11 years in a Stanley Cup final. So we're ready for one, man. We want to see it. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. As always, whether you're watching live or throughout the day, we appreciate you. FirstRoundCollectibles.com. We appreciate you. Use promo code SportsAddict for 10% off every card in the store. Andre, great to see you, man. Hopefully you have a safe trip from wherever you are to wherever you're going. Have a great weekend, everybody. We appreciate you. We'll see you on Monday.
Go